The City of East Cleveland's Financial Planning and Supervision Commission. First of all, before I call the roll, I would like to introduce Jessica Dragar, who is one of the representatives from the Treasurer's Office. Eric is out and about, so he's unable to make it, and she has been recruited. Okay, so I will call the roll. Brandon King.
Present.
Jessica Dragar.
Here.
Dr. Caver.
Here.
Marianne Nowak.
Here.
Sharon Hanrahan. Here. We have a quorum. The next item is the approval of the prior meeting's minutes. We will vote on these even though we don't have a quorum of those people who were present at the last meeting. We will at least vote to accept as presented. So if Mr. King or Ms. Nowak, if you see anything that you would like to point out that should be changed, let me know. Because I know we all can remember February 22nd.
I'll make a motion for their approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I will call the roll. Mr. King.
Yay.
Mr. Nowak. Ms. Nowak.
Yes.
Ms. Dragar.
I need to abstain.
You can vote yes to accept as presented.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Dr. Caver.
Yes.
Sharon Hanrahan. Yes. Okay, report of the financial supervisor.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Before you, you'll see a packet with the binder clip. I could ask you to use the binder clip. And within it, there are three groupings of papers, two with the paper clip and one with the staple. We'll start with the one on the top. It has the bank reconciliation. As you can see, the city is reconciled through March 31st to a book balance of $554,000. The financial packet throughout is as of March 31st. If you turn to page 2, you will see that we are currently monitoring the 7 remaining deficit funds, and they total about $3.2 million. Prior to closing 2015, if you recall, the city made a lot of transfers to try and consolidate the deficit funds into the general fund. Of the remaining deficits on page 2, the city anticipates transferring to all of those in 2016 to further consolidate all the deficits into the general fund. The court has agreed to transfer $35,000 from their special projects fund to assist with the operating deficit of BOCA for 2015. So the $35,000 along with the transfer from the general fund of approximately $97,000, that will bring BOCA back into the black. And the 2016 operations are appropriated to stay within current operating revenues.
Could you say that again about VOCA and the transfer? It's $35,000 from the courts.
Correct. The court has authorized us to transfer $35,000 from their special projects, and that is to alleviate the operating deficit from 2015.
Okay.
And then the general fund is going to transfer approximately $97,000 to clean up the prior year's deficits that have accumulated throughout. So between those two transfers, that will bring BOCA back into the black.
So it's $97,000?
From the general fund.
Okay. So we'll bring VOCA to a zero
Right.
balance.
Correct.
And we'll be bringing the general fund deeper in a deficit by 97,000 to do
Correct,
that.
yes. Because historically, Boca had a match that the city did not match at the time.
Okay.
In 16, Boca changed their programming to where they are allowing in-kind matching, so there's no additional money from the general fund that is necessary in order to meet a matching. So we're monitoring the expenditures to ensure that everything is reimbursable via the grant and we stay within current operating revenue. With all the other funds, as part of the general funds appropriations, there's approximately about 500,000 built into the general funds appropriations to alleviate all the deficits in the funds or to consolidate them into the general fund. And the current appropriations are within the estimated resources that the city anticipates those funds getting. So in theory, in reality so far, the only fund with a deficit at the end of the year should be the general fund.
What, is there anything that precludes us if we're just making a transfer, we're not transferring real cash, right? So is there anything that precludes us from accelerating those for Cleveland?
I'm hoping that the appropriations were passed by council on March 31st. I'm hoping that during the month of April, those transfers will be made on the books so that by our next meeting, the only deficit you will see will be the general fund.
Okay.
When we met last, there was some discussion regarding community development. I met with the CDBG director, the city's chief of staff, finance director, chief accountant, and Ms. Karen Hood, who works in the CDBG department. And I have found out the following. There are 3 funds that mainly deal with the community development program. The first one is NSP3. This is the fund where we're all talking about the house that needs to be sold.
Yes.
This is the fund where the house, once that house is sold, the proceeds from that sale will actually go into NSP3 to generate more program income that the city can then do more projects with. The reason NSP3 had a deficit was because the prior finance director of the city moved some NSP1 expenditures into NSP3, and that's what caused some of the deficit. But in 15, the deficit was eliminated with the transfer from the general fund. The home fund, I was provided a letter from HUD indicating that remaining grant monies are available to the city from prior grant awards. They confirmed that that money was available to the city. The city has also been awarded a grant in 2016. The deficit in the home program, in the home fund, was due to some grant monies being inadvertently posted to CDBG. So if you'll look on page 3, you will see in the very first column, I have it labeled the system beginning cash. That is what the city currently has on their financial system as beginning cash. The next column are some adjustments that need to be made to the city system. And then I come to the true beginning cash for the fund. And if you look towards the bottom of the page on fund number 2289, you'll see a $49,000 increase to that fund to correct that misposting. And it is coming out of CDBG 2260.
The only question I would have, I mean, I follow everything, this is great information, it really is. So, and at this point, there's really no way of knowing if our problem is in CDBG now rather than home.
Well, that's my
Because
next,
the grants,
that's
the way
my,
the funding works.
yeah,
What
that's
is
my
it?
next. The CDBG is the third of the three funds. Based on that discussion, not all of the personnel expenditures are reimbursed by the grants. So during that meeting, the city decided to move a portion of the fringe benefits that normally got charged to CDBG to the general fund. And so that's approximately $60,000 that normally hit CDBG. And with this movement, the expenditures should stay within the grant monies. And this is another fund we're going to watch to ensure that everything is getting requested for reimbursement. And the items that are not will be taken into account for the general fund.
So to take that maybe one step further, 1 year, may not have been this year, may not have been last year, but at one time, it's quite possible that expenditures were made in excess of what was allowable for that grant.
Correct. That's what generated the deficit. And so now that the city has brought the fund basically to ground zero with the transfer, from this point forward, all the expenditures that hit CDBG, finance is going to work with the CDBG director and Ms. Hood to ensure that they are reimbursed.
When we're looking at expenses, does the CDBG money have a fringes calculation so that there's some sort of overhead cost in each personnel cost, so that it may not be that there's an overage, but that the reimbursement rate is higher if you're taking the fringe out of the salary? So is it fringe and overhead, or just literally fringes as we would traditionally think about, which are your benefits and things of that nature?
The portion that's being moved is a portion of the healthcare costs are being moved into the general fund. I believe the grant, and Jack can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're allowed like 10% of the program can be administrative, and that includes salaries and any and all benefits. So the anticipation is if healthcare is moved, then what's left with salary and pension, and I believe Jack was going to leave the premium payments for healthcare in the fund, that those three pieces alone would meet that 10%. So we're utilizing the full amount of the grant that's possible to be reimbursed, but we still have to, not we, the city still has to move a portion of that to general fund. Are there any other questions on home or CDBG?
Can I, Ms. Green, is that correct?
Yes.
Is here, she runs the VOCA program. Was there anything that you wanted to add to the discussion?
Well, what she just stated, that it was no negative in VOCA. Am I correct?
Correct. The city
As soon as the
transferred,
transfers are made.
correct. Once the city makes a transfer to clean up the historical deficit in 2016, the appropriations are within current estimated revenues.
Ms. Green, is your program a reimbursable
Yes, it is.
So we'll see some negatives, but at the end of the year, it should even itself out.
It should wash out, yes, because last year it was also fully funded by VOCA as well as 2014-15 grant was fully funded by VOCA as well, whereas the city didn't have to, or the court didn't have to make a match. So we've been funded, and I'm grateful for it because they know that we need the program here in East Cleveland, and the struggle that we're having financially, not to put a burden on the city or the court, they were willing, and they know how valuable our program is, they were willing to fully fund our program with in-kind services. So, they do this.
Any other questions on the grant? Jack?
Just a point of clarification on that. I think the issue that we've identified is that the VOCA grant did cover all of the expenses of domestic violence, with the exception of the health care for the single employee that's covered by health care.
Okay.
So that's the portion that the courts has agreed to pick up in the Court Special Projects Fund.
Great, thanks.
Continuing on page 3, I just want to identify what some of the other adjustments to beginning balances are. We already discussed the $49,000, the $73,000. Some refuse fees accidentally got posted to the sewer fund, so that's going to be added into the general fund. The $66,000, the city has a reserve for fire loss fund, in which it's fund number 1120, in which the city receives the insurance monies from a damaged structure, and then once the improvements are made, the money goes to the homeowners. And $66,000 was accidentally posted to the deposits fund. And the final one is on page 4, when the city was closing the year at December 31st, $141,000 of the transfer was supposed to have gone into sewer and was accidentally posted into water.
And I think we talked about that in the last meeting.
We did. On page 5, since a fourth of the year is gone already, that in theory, the city should receive approximately 25% of estimated resources. Helen S. Brown, CDBG, domestic violence, the VOCA grant, bond retirement, and sewer capital improvement, those are all due to the transfers that have not been made yet by the city, but that should be cleaned up in April. And the COPS Universal Fund is a reimbursable grant, and I believe the grant starts in March, so the city should start requesting reimbursements in about April. On page 6 is the equivalent of page 5, but on the expenditure side of the equation. The police pension, fire pension, and bond retirement funds pay debt. And so the city made their first debt payment. That's why they're at 50%. The next debt payment is due in November and July. The service department, you'll see the service department in the general fund is quite large. In the appropriations, the service department is being was appropriated for in the street fund, but as of the March 31st financials, all the salaries and benefits from January 1st did not get moved yet to the street fund. So the only one individual was appropriated for in the street department in the general fund. So that movement will happen in April, and that will put actual expenditures more in line with where the individuals were appropriated for.
For clarification, you're talking the streets department for a fund.
The service department in the general fund is going to be moved to the street fund.
Street fund, okay.
Yeah, and the street fund is 2210.
Okay.
Is that why the appropriation is so low at
Yes.
33,000?
Yes. It only accounts for one individual who I believe has since retired. The increase in the Parks and Recreation, you will see they are currently at 40%. That is due to the city paying approximately $174,000 to the electric company to try and bring delinquent bills current. The city's trying to get a better rate on their electric bills, and in order to do that, they need to bring the bills current. A portion of that was charged to the Parks and Recreation Department.
But the lights aren't, the billing isn't related to the parks.
It is. The portion that was associated with the park got charged to the park, and then the remaining piece got charged to the central services. So that's also why central.
Parks and Recreation includes the Martin Luther King Civic Center. There's electricity there.
The city also paid approximately $20,000 to their ambulance billing company and $23,000 to AT&T to bring up the delinquent billings as current as possible. Also, as part of the year-to-date expenditures, as I mentioned in the last meeting, the city was unable to make some large payments before the end of the year. They have all been made as of March 31st, and they included approximately $266,000 to police and fire, $65,000 to OPERS, and $106,000 to Rumpke. And those were all 2015 expenditures that got posted in 16. And then that, in addition, along with their normal Rumpke and pension payments, are reflected in the year-to-date.
What was the one before Opers, your first one that you said?
Police and fire was $266,000.
And that's their retirement fund.
Correct.
For the past payments, when you look at the appropriation, is it appropriation plus rollovers in? Or are they paying for those bills out of the current appropriation, not their carryover encumbrances from the last appropriation?
It's out of current year encumbrances.
Okay.
I mean, out of current year appropriations.
Appropriations.
Yes. Current year appropriations.
So given that, is it fair to say that there's a possibility that we'll have to increase appropriations rather, to
Well,
cover that, or
No,
those
they were
included?
built into the appropriations that
Okay.
council passed.
Okay.